this bookmark has been sitting here for like 2 years. Hey y'all, it's Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing, I guess I'll say, a mood reading vlog. Alright, before we get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments how is your reading going lately. I hope it's doing a lot better than mine, because unfortunately as of late I have just not wanted to touch anything that I was planning to read. Nothing is striking my fancy, and I think that's only been compounded by the fact that unfortunately I've DNF'd the last 2 books I've been reading, and the 3rd book that I'm currently in the middle of, I just don't really want to keep pushing through, and unfortunately that is much more an obligation read. So I do need to actually keep pushing through, meaning I've gone back and forth. What do I think is going to keep me reading? What do I think will keep me moving forward, or at least get me out of this weird funk I have going right now? Anticipate a release, new possible favorite, 5-star prediction, continuing series. I don't know. I don't know. I'm so overwhelmed with options right now. So instead, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna whip out my trusty TBR jar. I'm gonna pull up a prompt. We're gonna follow said prompt. I'm really hoping I will get one that's a little bit more structured and kind of, force me into a certain direction. We'll see how that goes. With this one, 𝗖cie his𝘁ฉุ𝗰𝘁. Okay, so this basically means I need to take the color of the last book that I finished, and then I need to pick the next color moving forward from the rainbow. So technically speaking, the last book I finished was a book that I did not finish, and it was Sign Here by Claudia Lux. This is a mostly black book with some red accents on it. So I guess technically I'll say red, and then moving forward would be orange. So I'm gonna look through any books that are on my current priority reads, anything that is on my Kobo. What can I find that has an orange cover? Because I don't really own many orange covers. I remember this was a problem color for me previously. Well shit, none of those have helped. Let's look at my owned TBR. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And I realized we are gonna go with The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune. This is, I think, another republishing, actually, of one of his prior works that's more like sci-fi-y. I remember hearing really positive things about this one from Paige at the PM Reader, and I believe, yep, we are set in the 1990s. Nate has recently lost everything, unfortunately. He returns to his family's summer cabin outside the small mountain town of Roseland, Oregon, and inside finds a man named Alex with an extraordinary 10-year-old girl who calls herself Artemis Darth Vader. It's TJ Klune. It's gonna have found family vibes. It's probably gonna have a really cute romance. I really didn't need to know too much more to add it to my TBR and grab a copy when it was available from Book of the Month. So looks like we're finally getting around to this. Thankfully, I can get the audiobook and the ebook from my library, which will also help me maybe having multiple different formats of this, see whatever's working for me better at the time. Who knows, so long as it helps me read in some capacity. Let's see how this goes. Hello my friends, so I have hit the halfway point into The Bones Beneath My Skin, and I'm really liking this. It definitely has TJ Klune's humor, his charm, but also it's very much his writing style in that way that it is a little overwritten, I'm not going to lie to you, but something about it just works very well for me. It's not quite purple prosy, but it feels sort of the same way in the storytelling. And then the character work is so much fun. Of course, there's a grumpy character, which is, my kryptonite. I am really liking everybody we've been introduced to. So we have Nate, our main character, that initially at the start is very much trying to start over with his life because pretty much everything around him is sort of imploded. And now he's planning to go to the cabin he has inherited from his family, runs into this man along with a little girl, Artemis Darth Vader, who are on the run, and he doesn't know where they're on the run from. He doesn't know who is coming after them. He just knows they need help. And though initially he's really hesitant and he has all these questions, he can't help himself. He just kind of gets sucked into the story because he is a journalist. So he is always looking for the next big story. It's just ingrained into him to ask questions and be curious. So he can't really resist these two and their story. At this point, he has now been dragged along into this situation they're running from, and they're now on the road doing their best to keep ahead of these bad guys. And we finally learned why they're being chased and hunted. And I don't want to get into it. I can't imagine it says. It doesn't specifically say what's going on in the summary, so I don't want to tell you, but it's really fun and kind of plays on this sci-fi element that's really entertaining and interesting. It's not super in-depth sci-fi, it's not really science heavy, but there's enough there that I feel confident labeling this as a sci-fi story. And because it's TJ Klune, I know something is going to develop between our main character Nate and then Alex, the man taking care of Artemis. They're definitely different personality-wise. Like I said, Nate is very inquisitive and curious, whereas Alex is like a rough, tough Marine man, does not talk about anything, communicates in grunts a lot of the time. So I love seeing these two actually interact and talk things out. Artemis definitely does feel like a 10-year-old girl. She is so entertaining, but also a 10-year-old girl who is far too smart for her age. And that's kind of playing into why they're on the run. And that was a lot of fun to explore as well, with just the personality she has and how she uses the way people underestimate her to her advantage. I love it. It's so good. Like I said, when I went into this book, found family, I knew it was coming, and it absolutely is there. It's probably been one of the most prevalent things whenever I'm annotating lines here and there or scenes, finding this group of people where you feel secured and loved, and just, I can't help it. Like, Klune does it so well, and I just really enjoy it. There's also been a few mentions to the Green Creek series, which I thought that was really entertaining, just how he slid those in there. I noticed, I saw that. Overall, I also think that Klune does a solid job of maintaining the setting, because this is set during 1995, and so every once in a while there'll just be a reference to something or a mention of something that is very time accurate. So even if I may glaze over about the time period, he'll always have a way of bringing it back up to remind me once again. Obviously, they don't have, you know, a smartphone. Nate has like a Nokia at the start of this. The pricing on stuff, definitely not today's pricing. And then major historical events that took place during the 90s are also referenced every once in a while. So like I said, across the board, really, really enjoying this. Really glad I'm getting into it. Not at all surprised it is going well for me, because it is TJ Klune, honestly. As of this point, I think I could definitely see myself giving this another solid 5-star. His writing just works very well for me. Character creation, family dynamics, all of that sort of stuff. It just does it for me. I can't help it. Here's hoping that it does manage to stick the landing. Hey y'all, so I've officially finished out The Bones Beneath My Skin, and I did really like this. It was super cute overall. I definitely think it has a lot of similarities to TJ Klune's other works that I've loved, but it also has some key differences that I think make it stand out a little bit more. It doesn't feel quite so romance focused in comparison to a lot of his other stuff, but at the same time, like, there's still a very big element of a developing romance. And then the found family is so strong here, and it is so good. As I said in my prior update, it is set during the 90s, and I think Klune did a good job of constantly bringing that back up and having like reoccurring little moments that would remind me, yes, this is not modern day, but there's a certain specific part that is used in the climax that, if this is not based on a relatively, I'm going to say like a big event that took place true crime wise in the 90s, I'd be very surprised. And I'm trying to be as unspoilery as possible by saying that. When the setup of it was being explored and there was a reference to a certain other case that is very well known, I was like, Klune definitely based this situation off this case. It's not a one-to-one scenario. It is definitely not 100% comparable. So it doesn't feel like it is done in poor taste, but like, I can understand where he took certain elements from that true crime case and was able to find influence there for what was being set up here. I don't think this story overall is like the most original. Whenever I'm talking to other people in my life about it, I keep comparing it to like an E.T. sort of story, which it sort of is, with the sci-fi bits, but it's also not exactly that. Like, it feels like something I have seen done time and time again, but with the characters we were introduced to here, the way we were able to learn about them and see this developing little found family, just so cute. So good. Had a phenomenal time. It does have one spicy scene in there as well. TJ Klune's stuff very much makes me think of those like Sour Patch Kid commercials where there's a lot of sourness at the start, and then eventually you get to the sweetness, and it just feels like a warm hug. The characterization of all three of the main characters felt very, very well established. I liked how they played off of one another really well, and I think every one of them managed to worm their ways into my heart. Not even a little bit surprised. And I am also not surprised to say this was a 5-star. I'm really, really glad I got around to reading this one. So when I finished that, I actually was really in the reading mindset, and I was like, okay, what am I going to pick up next? I was at work when that happened, so I didn't have my TBR jar with me, but I did have my book buying bingo ban, my book buying ban bingo board, so many B's. I had my bingo board, which I create with prompts from my TBR jars. And so I was like, you know what? Let me go for the one where I can try to make a bingo. And so that was to do a random letter generator. So I'll go ahead and pop that up here because I did remember to screen record, and I ended up getting G, which honestly was actually really hard. But finally, I did decide to go with The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. This was pretty popular a few years ago when it came out. Let's see. Yeah, 2023, it was a Book of the Year finalist. And I remember hearing that it was kind of a feel-good contemporary story, maybe a little bit of magical realism. And it's really reminiscent of like Willy Wonka. So we're following a young woman who grew up reading these stories that she absolutely loves. And they're written by this man who's kind of a hermit that lives on this like really out there island called Cluck Island, where most of his stories are set. And he has written like 40 books in this series, but he has not come out with a new one for the last 6 years. And now he ends up setting up a competition stating that he has the 41st book and there's only one copy. And he's going to have this competition for these different people who, like, you're not 100% sure how, but they interacted with the author in the past. Whoever ends up winning gets to do whatever they want with that copy. If they want to read it and hold it for themselves, if they want to sell it, they can do whatever they like. So our main character is one of the people who can enter the contest, and she is determined to try and use this opportunity. She's going to win, she's going to read the book, and then she's going to sell the book so she can make a ton of money and finally adopt this little boy who was in her class like 2 years prior when he was a kindergartner. She is a kindergarten teacher assistant. Unfortunately, we learn he went through something rather traumatic. He chose to stay with her, which I'm not really sure the cops would do that. I'm pretty sure they would call CPS rather immediately. But he stayed with her for like a week, and now they just have this like trauma bond, essentially. Though he has been put into foster care, she is determined that she will adopt him. However, she's like 26. She lives in a house with 3 college students for roommates. She doesn't have a car. She, like I said, she's a teaching assistant, so she doesn't really have the best job. She just is not in a position to take care of a child. And I'm going to be honest, it's really, really grinding on my gears, because it's one of those situations where it's like, I get it. You have a lot of heart. You love this kid. I really respect that. But love is not enough. That's not going to pay the bills. That is not going to keep food in this child's mouth. Like, that is not going to ensure he has a stable life, because you don't even have a stable life. And just, that's so unhealthy and so unfair. And the fact that she continues to keep giving this child hope is just, it's so frustrating. I mean, like, I'm 1 year older than her, but because of this mindset she has, she comes across so naive and so immature, and it's frustrating. We also have a perspective of, I think his name is Hugo, and he illustrated all of these 40 books for the author whenever they had a revamp. And he is also tied up in the situation. Honestly, I don't really feel very strongly about him, except for the fact that the audiobook has 2 narrators, a man and a woman. The man reads little excerpts from this book series, and then the woman reads for both of the main characters. And she has a really bad British accent for this guy Hugo. And it's like, you already have a male narrator. Why didn't you just use him to read for this guy's perspective? I don't get it. Between like her trying to modulate her voice to sound like a man and then the British accent, it's so bad. It takes me out of the story every time we jump to one of his perspectives. I've been working on this. I'm actually way farther than where my bookmark is currently. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this one. It's rough for me so far. I'm not really liking it. I don't like the main characters. Here we go. I'm about 90 pages in. Not really that invested with the storyline itself. I was hearing a lot of positive things, which I think is why I ended up grabbing this from Book of the Month, but like, it is not doing anything for me so far. I'm gonna keep trying, however, and we'll hope it goes better. We'll see. We'll see where I'm at when I talk to y'all again. Guys, you will not believe what just freaking happened. I was snacking on some tortilla chips while filming, and I bit into one and a piece flew into my eye. I'm pretty sure I scratched my eye at this point. Oh, so that was really fun. Anyway, hey y'all. So, catching back up on this vlog. Last time I talked to you, I told you I had started into The Wishing Game by Meg Schaffer. I wasn't really loving it. If I'm being honest, I am like fighting my way out of a slump. I am desperately trying not to fall into one. Meaning this book that's not sparking joy. Yeah, I don't want to read it. I'm not continuing on with it. I just don't care. I don't care about either of the main characters. I don't really care about the storyline. The Willy Wonka thing doesn't really appeal to me this much. I remembered I actually got this book for free technically because it was a Book of the Month year finalist, and it was the only one that sounded remotely kind of interesting, and that's really only because of the hype. And it's another one where I'm going against the grain because I don't get the hype. I don't really like this. Not really sympathizing with the female one. The guy, I do not care about at all. I don't really know why we even have his perspective yet, and I'm just not invested to see if she, you know, like manages to win this competition and adopt the kid. I don't care. DNFing this one. So we're gonna return to the TBR jar and we're gonna see what does the universe think I need to try and read next. Here's hoping that it's something which goes slightly better. I need just like above mediocre. I really hope that we can get something that actually appeals to me. So, but on a recommendation. Okay, that's fun. Let me see. What books did I buy on a recommendation? You know what? I think I'm using this. I'm officially doing it. Guys, I'm gonna read Mary by Nat Cassidy. Finally. This bookmark has been sitting here for like 2 years. I had barely started into it, and I want to read it. I did buy this on so many people's recommendations because I heard it was so good. I think it's finally time. And this is a 5-star prediction. Fingers crossed. Oh, let's see how this goes. I'll talk to y'all when I've started into it, I guess. Hey y'all, so we've actually made progress into Mary. I know. Who am I? I can't believe it's finally happening. Chapter 32, and I will say we love a good short chapter. I mean, let me find it because I just passed it. We actually had a chapter that was literally a single page and not even a full page. This is exactly what I want. I love it. But not only that, I am actually genuinely enjoying this book apart from the short chapters. The plot itself doesn't feel as like Carrie retelling focused as I guess I was expecting it to. It's really more in the characterization around Carrie herself. And I guess it's just the matter that like I clung on to that comparison, and that's really just like all I wanted to know going into this book. But it does kind of have a little bit of a mystery element going on where Mary's trying to figure out elements of her past and like why is she seeing these creepy ghosts, like what the hell is going on in this small town, because it kind of has a culty feel. Like I'm not sure if it's actually a cult, but it does kind of feel like a cult. I'm really digging all of that, but I also like this element of talking about a woman's place in society and how your life still matters, even if you don't feel like you're adding to society in a certain way that you should be doing. And then kind of going off of that, given the fact that she is an older woman who does not have children, there's obviously this like misogynistic viewpoint of like she doesn't matter because she's not a mom, she's not a wife. And that's kind of been maybe reinforced with the cult thing. I'm not 100% sure. That might be me just making connections. Might be seeing things that aren't actually there. I don't know. There's a little bit of that, and then along with it, because of her age, there's definitely some ageism going on, and like how you almost become invisible, especially if you aren't seen as worthy in like your profession or your identity as a parent. To some people, you just like essentially don't matter, and that therefore makes you nearly invisible. And so I really thought that was interesting as well. There's a lot of stuff with womanhood and aging that I think Cassidy is like weaving together really well, tying into Mary's personality and like issues she inherently has and just like insecurities she has grown up with for so long, and like how they have developed into these things as she has gotten older, and kind of seeing like how she's hitting her point of she's tired of it and like where is she going from here. I'm really liking that. There's also this just blooming rage in her that I do love. A lot of the times Mary she's definitely not the kind of character I really enjoy reading. She's more timid, she's more meek. She really has this ongoing internal dialogue telling her she needs to be a good girl and all that sort of stuff. But I really like now that she kind of starts pushing the envelope a little bit more
her because she is desperate to finally get some answers. We're sort of maybe backtracking. It's not like a consistent building. It's definitely like, you know, we grow, we got some dips and we got some valleys, but then we'll have a rise again. And I'm really liking all of that. It feels very, very authentic in the character development that's taking place here. And kind of, it's not gaslighting, because part of me doesn't think other people are actually thinking or acting the way Mary believes them to be, but it's so ingrained in her to just like assume she does not matter and other people are mocking her, where she reads all of these different situations in a way that makes it feel like everybody has this nefarious plan. There's this constant, like I said, gaslighting undertone almost. It's just building, and especially as we're like seeing some of these people from her past and more questions are rising, it's just this uncertainty, and it's very uncomfortable, but like I'm really liking it. It's building so well. Every time I continue listening to the book on audio or I continue reading it, I just feel like I am like dunked back into that uncomfortable feeling of being suspicious of everything around me and everything in regard to the story of like where is it going. I'm really liking this. It's definitely one so far where I'm like a little annoyed with myself for taking so long, but that's also kind of the whole point of me reading it now. I needed a book to do this for me, and it is doing it, and I'm so glad. And also, it works out perfectly for the 2025 horror bingo board, which my TBR just recently posted, so I'll put a link to that in the cards, because one of the prompts is a book that you kept putting off, and for hard mode, you read that book first of the board, and so this will be my first book on the board, meaning I will get it for hard mode. It's very funny how things lined up just perfectly for this. I'm so glad I'm finally getting into this and really enjoying it. I do just feel like Cassidy's character work is really strong, and like I said, this uneasy, horrific feeling that he is developing is so good. I'm definitely going to check out more of his stuff. I really am curious as to like, where's the story actually going though? Like where are we going from here? What are the final answers going to be? I have no clue, but I'm so excited.
Hello, my loves. So I officially, finally, I can't believe it has taken this long, finished out Mary by Nat Cassidy, and I really liked this. I'm still debating on whether or not this is the 5-star I was predicting. I really wanted to love this, and it did unfortunately drag a little bit in some parts, but pretty across the board, I really enjoyed my time with this. I thought Cassidy did a phenomenal job of creating Mary's character and really seeing the roller coaster ride that she goes through and watching and understanding like why this is so difficult for her and like why this is such a change, and just like the evolution of her character throughout this was so good. The way rage was used from the beginning, and then like once you start to understand what's going on with the plot and what's happening inside Mary's head, how that rage like rounds back out at the end. I loved all of that. It was so good. I really liked this kind of ongoing discussion around how older women almost become like invisible, how it's so easy for them to be overlooked by a lot of people. And I did not know there was a cult element to this book. I don't know how I went so long without knowing that, but there is a cult aspect of this story. I love a good cult story, and given the fact that I've been consuming a lot of true crime documentaries about cults lately, it was very timely. The layers in this story were so impressive, because it feels like when you start, it's one thing, and then it like kind of transitions into another thing, and then it evolves off of that into another thing. It was so good. Like, I am really impressed with Cassidy's writing work here. I'm definitely going to be checking out more from this author. I'm really debating, like, is this 5-star? I don't think it's quite a 5-star. I think it's a 4.5 though, honestly. Like, I did really like this. All of the themes that were woven in, like I said, the devolving and evolution of Mary's character was just so engaging, and even though like Mary is definitely a character that I wouldn't tend to enjoy, but because of the whole setup of the story, I just was eating it up. And I had always heard that you have to read the author's note at the end of the book and kind of see Cassidy's discussion around, you know, him, a man, writing a book about a woman who is perimenopausal. And I definitely agree. I really enjoyed his notes and kind of the perspective he had on storytelling especially stories that may not inherently be based on your own personal experiences. I thought that was really good. The gore was amazing. Like it was so well done, and I think he did a really great job of not overusing it, because it felt like every time gore would be brought back up, it was always so shocking. Like it always caught me off guard in how it was used. There was one in particular that will probably live in my head rent free. And then finally, the twists in this, really good. One, I did not anticipate. I really thought I knew what was happening there. And then like towards the end, you finally starts to be questions from other characters around that situation. And it kind of turns things around, and it's like, oh, maybe this isn't what I was expecting. So I didn't even know to be keeping an eye out on that situation, because I thought I already knew what was going on. So I thought that was really cleverly done. This is just what I freaking needed. Guys, I'm actually in the mood to read. Can't believe it's finally happening. So I guess this kind of inadvertently became a Read My Shelves. I wasn't initially intending for it to be a Read My Shelves, but seeing as how the 3 books I ended up reading came from my own TBR, after the fact I have made the decision I'm going to label it as such. So ironically, I had like 2 5 stars and then 1 DNF. But this video did do what I needed it to. So on that note, that's officially it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's go ahead and leave a glass of wine emoji in the comments. I have links to all of my socials, as well as a few ways you can support me down in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!